104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 159.
159. That might have been the smoothest start we've ever had.
Oh yeah,
nothing was
we actually
broken.
I don't know.
Falling.
I don't look like I have had enough sleep, and I definitely don't feel
you're
that
a little.
way.
Something's off with you today.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but we'll figure it out. In the meantime, we will discuss.
We'll fix it in the mix.
One of my favorite TV shows of all time.
You were hyped. You were hyped on.
Just had a documentary. It's called Unsolved Mysteries Behind the Legacy. You can watch it for free on Pluto, just like you can watch all of the Robert Stack episodes of Unsolved Mysteries, which some are still unsolved. So help solve a mystery. This documentary.
That's a good tease.
I watched the hell out of the show, bro. And it starts off with the fact that when I was very small, we were actually, before we moved to Cape, we lived here in Springfield when I was in kindergarten and part of first grade. Then we moved to Cape. I went to school there, came back for sophomore year, graduated Kickapoo, so on and so forth. I was probably 4 or 5. We lived over off of Lindbergh, kind of by the FedMed. And I will never forget, I don't remember my mom telling me not to watch the TV, but when she was doing laundry, she heard that Unsolved Mysteries was coming up Thursday. It was like a Thursday night, right? And she's doing stuff, and she goes, "Michael, you don't want to watch that. It's not good." And then she comes in, and I'm just like,
"This is where everything went wrong. This was the moment we just figured it out.
That music,
we just figured it out.
Send me into a spiral because the episode that was like demonic possession, right?
There you
go.
And
so here I am, 4 or 5 years old, just like. And I mean, I heard that music for years. It would be like, no.
Wow.
And then when I got older, I don't know, my early teens, maybe before that, I finally was kind of like, you know what? I gotta face my fears. And then I just became horribly addicted to the show because they played it constantly on the Lifetime channel. I mean, it was like if you turned on the Lifetime channel, there was a 90% chance that Unsolved Mysteries was running always.
Right,
and so that's how I got into it. And then years later, obviously it's free. You can watch it anywhere now, which is amazing.
And now they brought it back.
Yeah, which is, and well, it sucks because they had a podcast for it too, which I thought was amazing. They just ended it. I don't know why. The Netflix series continues to produce, which hopefully they continue to do that because I think they're great, but nothing beats the Robert Stack episodes. I mean, there wasn't anything like that. There hasn't really been anything since that exists. It's just like the perfect combination that really started out as a thing they didn't even think was going to succeed.
Yeah, and it blew up.
It just they interview the producers in this documentary, and you could just see it on their faces. Like we really didn't have. I mean, true crime was kind of a thing, and all these unsolved mysteries were kind of a thing.
Yeah, this was like the OG true crime.
And this is it wasn't like it was new territory, but now you think about the way the world is as far as like entertainment and all these things that we watch and
reality
true crime podcasts and Unsolved. That this is the OG of it all. I mean, there were things like this before, but nothing that just encapsulated all of this into one thing. And it really started with Robert Stack, who, in my opinion, is probably one of the best hosts of any true crime thing. And it's just because his delivery was so good.
Yeah.
It
seemed like a detective.
Yeah, and he did play a detective in The Untouchables on TV, and maybe that's why they went for the guy.
I think so.
It kept him in the trench coat the entire time, but you can tell it was always funny to me, especially whenever he would read things like, obviously the serious, people have been kidnapped, killed, and we're looking for them. That stuff, was serious. But when it was like ghost things or UFO things, you could always tell, like right after they hit cut, he probably goes, "Who wrote?
Well,
come on, I got him laughing or something."
Really
He's like on the verge of it.
Yeah.
But definitely the professional, and we will talk next about how they got their stories and mysteries in the early days. Unsolved Mysteries on this episode of Dark Side of the Stream continues next on 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. This is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 159. We are discussing Unsolved Mysteries Behind the Legacy. So when they announced this documentary a few weeks back, they did one night showing in theaters. And I got a chance to go see it at the Alamo.
I don't know how you pulled that off.
Well, I wasn't going to miss it.
Hear about it.
No, because I follow Unsolved Mysteries, and that's why I knew about it. And it was literally like in and out.
One night showing.
One
That's
night.
like
And then they released it for free. While we were watching it, my wife and I looked at each other and we were like, God, wouldn't it be so awesome if they played some segments? Right. So they did the documentary and then afterwards played like their top 5 segments in the theater. It was just so cool to see it there. I mean, I'd seen them a million times. One of them was the missing girl from Clinton Bolivar. They still haven't found with her boyfriend. The demonic possession guy where he could make it rain when he snapped his fingers and all that stuff. But yeah, it was a trip to see it. One of the things I thought was very interesting is how they got their mysteries. Because when you watch Unsolved Mysteries, you know, it's obviously like you too can solve the mystery. And then the P.O. box and then the 1-800 number.
Man, old school.
Right. As a kid watching this stuff, you know, I'd be like, oh my God, what if one day I get to
solve one?
I get to be the one to call them. I never solved no damn mystery. And I just thought all this time that since the get-go, they just had a bunch of people, you know, answering the phone and taking calls and letters and stuff. And that's how they started this thing. But that wasn't actually how it began. They just started reading newspapers, calling their journalist friends in different cities. You got any leads?
Stories? Yeah.
One of the things that blew my mind was that at this time in our history, there was actually a job where all you did was sit at home, cut clippings from newspapers, and send them into TV producers.
We missed our calling.
That was a job.
We missed our calling.
That was a job. And they paid a lot of money for that. And that's how they got their mysteries early on, which to me, obviously that job doesn't exist anymore because we have this thing called the internet. But there was a lot of things in this show that I was like, God, that doesn't exist anymore. That job literally does not exist.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
There's a lot of those now, thanks internet. But that was a really interesting thing for me. What kind of stood out for you in this show?
The Matthew McConaughey cameo.
Oh, okay. We can talk about that. Yeah, that one was wild.
That was my favorite part. I was
take
like,
his shirt off and it's so hot.
A little young Matthew McConaughey making
the director,
his start.
It's great that he got to be in that, and that's a start, and that's a really good one. There is also a guy who went by the name in the TV show Workaholics. He's one of the guys that works in the office, and they call him Ghost Man because he just looks so weird. He's actually an abusive father in one of the episodes, and he still looks like the Ghost Man from the. I mean, it's probably been 30 years between the episodes, and he looks exactly the same. Man. There are a few more cameos, and they get into that, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's definitely an eye-opening documentary. As far as one of the things that I thought was interesting too was how it just took over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, everybody knew about it, saw it, watched it, looked forward to watching it.
You know? And how many times a criminal got busted would say.
Yeah, I wonder how many.
I was watching myself, and then the cops came in.
Yeah. Or what about the other one where they wanted the guys to audition as robbers, and so these guys came in and didn't audition. They're like, "You guys are great."
Oh yeah, yeah. They're talking about
what do you guys do for a living? Like, we're robbers.
Actually gang members.
Yes.
Yeah, they came in. Yeah, dude, they were like doing the roll call for that was such a trip. I'm glad you brought that up. I completely forgot about that. And dude's like, man, these guys are good. And he's like, what do you do for a living? We're like, no, we're actually gang members.
We rob people.
We just figured we'd get paid for it on the legit. Which, hey, what's that dude? He has the picture. He's the Danny Trejo.
Yeah,
he was a gang member before he got the same deal.
Yeah.
So hey, at least he made it work for him.
Cash in on what you're good at.
We'll cash in more of this Unsolved Mysteries Behind the Legacy next Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The K. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. It is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 159, Unsolved Mysteries Behind the Legacy. So I thought that was a pretty interesting story. The other thing that I thought was interesting is how far they would take. When they got back to the subject of the reenactments, for example, they spent a little bit of time discussing how, like, a lot of the time, some of the people involved in these stories really wanted to be reenactors. And there are some episodes I think that stand out where, like, you see the guy interviewing, he's like, yeah, then this happened, and then they show the family and it's actually them. That I think is part of the reason I love this show so much is the reenactments. They're just so good, but bad.
Bad good, yeah, for sure. I mean, this is 80s acting, man, at its finest.
Not
right?
only 80s acting, but some guy who just happened to be involved in some either shooting or a robbery, or maybe an angel visited them or saw a ghost, and they all have, they the reenactment. Probably one of my favorite ones is a ghost one, and it's like a couple who live with their I guess the husband's parents lived there, and they were talking about how they were having all these weird things happen, poltergeist, yeah,
Goings-ons.
goings on, and then supposedly she gets possessed and like jumps on top of him and is like, riding him and choking him out at the same time and laughing at him. And he's like, any normal guy would have said, "Holy God, yeah,
Yeah.
let's ride this." And he's like, "Get off me!
Oh,
Who
I
are
know,
you?
yeah.
I don't know." I can't remember if he was also in the reenactment too.
So silly,
But it's
man.
like, dude, and the girl, and then they cut to the wife, and she goes, "I don't talk like that. I don't have a crazy maniacal laugh. I don't." And it's like,
You might have been better off with the
I
demon.
know, that's what I'm
Might have been
sitting
better
there
off with the
thinking.
demon
I
chick,
know,
dude.
that's what I'm sitting there thinking. Like, dude,
Don't wake her up out of the
I know.
trance. Let's
Did you
go.
really want to exercise your house after
No,
that?
Yeah, let's keep
Oh
that
my
one.
God.
Let's
All
keep
right.
that
Well,
going.
we'll get to our reviews of this Unsolved Mysteries documentary next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The K. Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio one more time. This is Dark Side of the Stream, discussing unsolved mysteries behind the legacy. So, what would you give? How many unsolved mysteries would you give this one?
I'll give it 3.5.
Hey, thanks.
It was free. It was good, and I know it meant a lot to you to us to do it.
This is that you have watched over the last 159 episodes of relationship develop between two guys that couldn't be more different from each other, but the love it's strong. And he does go out. He does take care of me sometimes. He knew how much this would mean to me, even though he's right. I watched the whole thing and I knew pretty much everything, except
I'm sure
for
you knew
there was a couple things
episode.
I didn't know. More specifically, the thing that interested me was how they got the stories early on.
Yeah, that's
and
great,
I had no
man.
idea that was a thing, like clipping. I would say probably solid 3.5. It's not like it rewrote the book.
No,
I'm glad.
just told a little story.
It was a cool story.
A moment in time.
About a show
a moment in time.
that's 30, 40 years old that is still in regular rotation.
And still new episodes now too. Because
Netflix, that says something about the power of the mystery.
Good.
So kids, watch it, and because maybe you too can solve a mystery. Jay, what is our next documentary?
Well, I was trying to think last night a couple things, and I think I'm gonna go with this family name's been getting a lot of love these days. So I wanted to watch the documentary on the Kelsey brother that hasn't texted.
About Jason,
the Kelsey brother that did not text my girlfriend.
I've actually seen that documentary already. But
have you? Okay,
yeah.
I have not.
Really good. Yeah, because it's after the Mahomes one, and then everyone's like, "Hey, they're getting Kelsey." Of course, I mean,
let's watch.
And even though he's an Eagle and he's part of the enemy, as far as I'm concerned, if we meet him again in a Super Bowl down the road. As a former offensive line myself and a center, I love the guy. I think he's an incredible football player.
I'm curious to find out a little bit more about him. I don't know too much about him.
He's a good dude. He's the older brother. You could tell he's definitely the more serious of the two.
Yeah, a little more.
God, the pedigree that Kelsey family has. You got one of the best centers in the league, along with one of the best lines in the league, and then you've got arguably one of the best tight ends in the league coming from the same family.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's like that, like the Jones family as well. Now here we go. Here comes the Alzheimer moment. Here comes the Alzheimer moment, man.
The Jones family.
Yeah.
What Jones family?
Two of them are football players, and one of them is a UFC champion.
Okay.
Anyway,
I don't know who that is.
I'm completely blanking right now. More than that. I'm completely spaced out. John Jones.
John Chandler and Arthur Jones.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, John Jones, UFC champion, arguably one of the best of all time. Never really lost. And then these two other brothers, Super Bowl champions, right?
Yeah.
You get pedigrees like that. These families where these brothers are just incredible.
Yep. Arthur Jones.
Parents are creating super children, know?
It's just, or they're raising them right. Either way, we're going to figure that out. Dark Side of the Stream, you can watch every Thursday, 9 a.m. on Facebook or YouTube. You can stream it for free off of our 104.7 The Cave app as a podcast, or listen it during my show at 9 a.m. or Jay's show at 6 p.m. That's Jay Stevens. I'm Mike the
Yes, me too.
Intern.
We
We watch
watch
movies, so
documentaries,
you don't have to. It's Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.